when the kidnapper proposed that I should be exchanged for the heroine's white moonlight. I was a little nervous. The system comforted me. Don't worry, host. The heroine's favorability has reached 80%. She definitely won't agree. But the heroine only took one look at me and didn't hesitate. Exchange. The system. I walked towards the kidnapper with a bitter smile, watching Kari regain his freedom. Looking back, Irene's face was still so noble, as if the 10 years between us didn't exist, until the kidnapper's knife pierced my body. Her indifference was finally shattered. The sound of calling my name was mixed with panic. As intense pain hit me, I fell heavily to the ground. But even the system didn't know that my heart was filled with the joy of relief. The strategy task is judged as unachievable. The host can unbend by oneself. The moment I opened my eyes, I felt a sharp pain at the back of my head. System. Lower the pain perception by 90%. Host. The heroine is nearby. A higher pain perception will be more realistic and the heroine will be more likely to feel sorry for you. According to the survey, to get a woman's true love, you must first get her pity. The system put forward suggestions in a rigid way in my mind. Okay. For a small character like me, the system is like heaven. Just like at this moment, the system went against my will and forcibly left 50% of the pain perception. I had no choice either. After all, everything focuses on the strategy. You're awake? Irene's voice rang out in the ward. On her usually expressionless face, there was a rare touch of gentleness. I prepared some porridge for you. I'll heat it up. After she left the room, I found that Grayson had also come. Grayson is Irene's younger brother, 6 years younger than her. He grew up under Irene's indulgence. As her suitor, I naturally tried my best to please him. But he looked down on me the most. He thought I was too much of a sycophant and lost a man's dignity. Even the note on his phone for me was Big Sister's dog. In high school, Grayson was in the affiliated primary school. What he and his group of friends loved to play the most was to find someone to tell me that Sister Weiroo was being bullied. Come and help. Watching me rush out of the classroom in a hurry, and then run back in a panic when the class bell rang. They laughed heartily hiding behind the back window. Yes, my love for Irene was so strong that I could fall for this kind of trick again and again, even though I knew in my heart that there was a 99% chance it was false. I didn't dare to bet on that remaining 1% possibility. At this moment, Grayson was leaning against the door of the ward, looking at me with complicated eyes. Awesome. You didn't hesitate to block that thick wine bottle for your sister. He gave a thumbs up. His eyes finally didn't have a hint of contempt. I admire you. As your brother-in-law, I recognize you. Recognize what? Irene came back with the lunchbox. She unceremoniously chased him away. You can't help here. You'll also affect your brother Matteo's rest. Go home quickly. She sat back on the stool in front of the hospital bed, blew on the spoon, and handed it to my lips. Clearly a caring act. But when Irene did it, it somehow had an official feeling. Probably this is a career-oriented big heroine. After feeding me the porridge, Irene carefully touched the gauze on the back of my head. There was a hint of pity in her eyes. Does it hurt? I nodded and then shook my head. You are always like this. Stubbornly staying by my side. From childhood to adulthood. You always stand in front of me, no matter what danger there is. The question you asked me last month. I think I already know the answer in my heart. Irene did everything with determination. Even at this moment. She raised her head without dodging. Her eyes were shining brightly. Fall in love. New boyfriend. A 10-year-long persistent pursuit finally came to a successful end. My throat was so dry that I couldn't say a word. I just opened my arms and wanted to hold her in my arms. Will it affect your wound? Irene hesitated. I laughed. How could it? Your boyfriend is not so fragile. Even though my heart was full of emotion, I didn't forget to confirm with the system. How much is the favorability of the strategy target? 60%. The host still needs to keep working hard. The cold mechanical voice rang out. Unexpected but reasonable. I closed my eyes. The throbbing in my heart seemed to cool down again. I was with Irene. When attending the cocktail party. Everyone's eyes glanced at our holding hands. Some were teasing. Some were disdainful. A sycophant finally gets everything in the end. Even if they didn't say it. I could guess what they were thinking. However, today's protagonists are not only the two of us but also Irene's white moonlight. In the original book, the only man who made Irene suffer a loss in love. Kari. In my opinion, this person is a pure male green tea. But he appeared earlier than me. With the friendship from childhood, Irene has always trusted him very much. Kari didn't hide it at all, and stared closely at Irene beside me. With 3 pauses in one sentence. Kari seemed to be trying hard to control his emotions. Okay. My blessings have been sent. I've always had some opinions about you. I'm afraid he will be unhappy if I stay here. I'll leave first. After saying this, without waiting for Irene's answer, Kari strode away. The tightly pursed corner of his mouth showed the master's sadness. Irene gave me a difficult look. I was already angry in my heart, but nodded at her to indicate that she could do as she pleased. I'll go see Ruin. After leaving this sentence, Irene chased after Kari. I calmly found a seat and sat down, ignoring the sympathetic or gloating gazes in the room. Matteo is so pitiful. After finally becoming the official boyfriend, he still can't compare to Kari's charm. Irene didn't leave him any face at all. The husband has no authority. No authority. He has simply become a part of the play between Chairman Zhu and Kari. Don't talk nonsense. Didn't Kari publicly say that there is only sisterly affection and the grace of support between Chairman Zhu and him? After all, he is also a popular idol, focusing on acting and not having romances. What do you know? Kari just thinks that Irene is too strong as a woman and he can't control her. Otherwise, there would be no place for Matteo. Poor Chairman Zhu. She is unrivaled in the business field. But in the end, she is like a kite in Kari's hand and can't fly far. I pretended not to hear the discussions around me and communicated with the system in my mind. Host. Are you just letting the strategy target go to Kari like this? The system's question carried a dangerous aura. I seriously explained. I can't stop her even if I want to. It's better to let Irene think that I'm sensible and interesting and get some sympathy points. As you said, making her feel sorry can get true love. Okay. The system flashed twice in my mind and became quiet again. Phew. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that this hurdle had passed and I wouldn't be punished by electric shock by the system. On the way back, Irene explained to me, Ru-Ilan has been filming a tragic love drama recently. He is in a bad mood. It's not on purpose against you. He saved Grayson when he was a child. I understand. As a qualified boyfriend, I must be understanding at this time. Kari and you have known each other for so many years. It's normal for you to have a good relationship. She was a little touched. Matteo. You are so kind. Ru-Ilan is like Grayson in my heart. They are both my younger brothers. I agreed with a smile but rolled my eyes in my heart. In this world, Irene is the absolute center. The fates of all characters are written early for her growth. Like most upgrade novels, the protagonist has a tragic experience. Irene is no exception. Born into a wealthy family but lost her parents early, only leaving her who was not yet 12 and an even younger brother. The uncles are not kind and the aunts are not loving. The grandfather who wants to protect the siblings is already old, and is blinded by the seemingly harmonious facade. Irene preserved the family property left by her parents in such undercurrents, raised her younger brother safely, and even gained the recognition of her grandfather and other old people in the company. So she was able to take over the company. The difficulties she faced were much more complicated and dangerous than those in ordinary upgrade novels. For example, in order to make Irene hand over the guardianship of her parents' inheritance, the younger aunt of the Zhu family once joined forces with outsiders to kidnap Grayson. As a result, The hired people were greedy for money and directly made the kidnapping real. They hid Grayson in a remote village and threatened the Sioux family that if they didn't give money, they would kill him. At that time, Kari was a vagrant begging from street to street. He accidentally discovered Grayson, who was locked up. He took Grayson's personal jade pendant and went to a nearby town for help. Only then did the police successfully lock the location and rescue Grayson. From then on, Irene recognized Kari as her sworn brother and sent him to school. Later, Kari was determined to go to the entertainment industry to strive. Irene took out all kinds of resources and finally made Kari a popular young actor. She said that Kari had a life-saving grace for her younger brother. However, what I have done for Irene and her brother in these 10 years is only more. According to the system, as a big heroine, Irene is destined to have constant big and small events around her, and I revolve around her every day, taking on the positions of nanny, secretary, and bodyguard. When I was 16, Irene was blocked in an unmanned equipment room by her admirer. I used my body to break open the iron door and broke a rib. When I was 20, Grayson, who had just entered high school, entered a rebellious period and got into trouble with social people outside school. In a fit of anger, the other party pulled out a knife. I stood in front of Grayson. Since then, there has been a deep scar on my shoulder. When I was 22, Irene's company's procurement order was deliberately made difficult by competitors at a wine table. The other party asked Irene to drink a whole bottle of liquor and threatened that I could do it instead. But it had to be 10 times more. I didn't hesitate to pour the liquor into my stomach. When I vomited blood after drinking the 4th bottle, I was sent to the hospital. Perhaps what is too easily obtained is always not so precious. This principle holds true for both men and women. Although Irene is used to my existence, her attitude is neither cold nor warm. Others think it's because she has someone else in her heart. But I gradually discovered the coldness in Irene's heart. She probably loves no one. The only people who can be placed in her heart are Grayson and herself. My enthusiasm from my teenage years gradually cooled. Strategy: target Irene. Favorability 70. System: how much is the favorability? In a dim alley, several burly yellow-haired youths surrounded a girl with a thin figure. Host: we finally found the heroine. Hurry up. The system merged in my mind. Just as I was about to rush forward, I was stopped by the other party. Get out of here. Otherwise, I'll beat you up too. How can I be cowardly at this time? I pursed my lips and shouted loudly, I have already called the police. You still have time to run now. The one with a scar on his eyebrow smiled playfully and raised the stick in his hand high. Brothers just want to chat with this little beauty. Unexpectedly, there is someone who is so uncooperative to disturb. Well, let's stretch our muscles first. Host: you must protect the heroine. It doesn't matter if you are beaten. But if the heroine is hurt, you will be punished by the system rules. I opened my eyes wide and tried hard to resist. But the 15-year-old body was not strong enough. I was accidentally knocked down to the ground. The stick fell on my body, causing piercing pain. Will I die before I succeed? Beaten to death in front of the heroine? The police siren rang like a life-saving straw at this moment. The social youths fled upon hearing the sound. The girl who had been silently shrinking in the corner came forward to help me. Are you okay? Fortunately, I'm not dead yet. I struggled to get up from the ground. My whole body was in pain as if it was about to fall apart. In order to leave a good impression on the heroine, I still insisted on raising a smile. By the way, my name is Mateo. Let's get to know each other. In summer, at the corner of dusk, accompanied by the flashing of police lights and the long sound of sirens, the girl's slight smile with pursed lips marked the end of our first encounter. In fact, it's not that beautiful. The teenager came with a purpose. Although his intention was good, after all, he couldn't erase the deliberateness of this heroic rescue. I have asked the system more than once. Irene is already a strong and independent big heroine. Why must a strategy task be set for her? Because the readers are not satisfied. The system said. Although the heroine is successful in her career, she has never met a sincere confidant in her life. Before she died, she also had a longing for sincere feelings. The readers all want to change her fate. Let her enjoy love while enjoying her career? This seems a bit cheesy. I secretly complained and then asked. Then why was I chosen? It's just a coincidence. You are just the same age as a Saxarabirine detected by the system with the highest favorability. When bound, I was only 16 years old. It was inevitable to be afraid of this unscientific power. Will I live under the monitoring of the system for the rest of my life and take ensuring Irene's favorability as the premise for all my actions? You will be under the monitoring of the system for the rest of your life. Before the task ends, all your behaviors must be centered around ensuring Irene's favorability. The system comforted. As long as the task is over, you will regain your freedom. Yes. As long as the task is over, whether it fails or succeeds, I can go home. It's all your fault. You took everything from me. Go die. Go die. A person with an indistinguishable face rushed over with a dagger, looking ferocious. I pushed Irene away but didn't have time to dodge myself and was stabbed by the assailant. The pain didn't come as expected. I woke up from the bed. It was a dream. Did you have a nightmare? At this time, Irene had already gotten up. She was currently arranging her skirt in front of the closet. I have to go to the hospital tonight. You can eat by yourself after work. Don't worry about me. How is Grandpa's health recently? Getting worse and worse. Irene sighed. Then it seemed that she suddenly remembered something and became solemn. You should also be careful when you go out recently. It's your little uncle. I immediately realized. This should also be an important turning point in Irene's domineering career. Asher, that is, Irene's little uncle, has privately developed many gray industries. Irene has been gradually removing these bad nails. As the things Asher did were revealed one by one in front of Grandpazu. Grandpazu was finally completely disappointed in this youngest son. He signed a will. Irene will become the new head of the Zhu family. And facing Asher, the last words he left were, "Go and surrender yourself. The Zhu family will help you get a lighter punishment." Asher completely couldn't understand the old man's good intentions. He escaped. Irene has reported Asher to the police. The police have started a manhunt. But before he is caught, maybe he will be cornered and do some extreme things. But unexpectedly, it wasn't me or Grayson who had an accident. It was Kari. That day we were about to have a meal. Irene received a call and was about to go out in a hurry. What happened? Asher kidnapped Kari and wants to see me. Irene looked complicated. I'll go too. Jokingly. Asher hates Irene so much. When she goes there, she will inevitably encounter danger. I must follow and protect her. Strategy: target Irene. Favorability 80. The driver drove very fast. Through the car window, I saw the light and shadow changing on Irene's face. I knew she was thinking of the scene when Grayson was kidnapped again. I held Irene's hand to give her a little sense of security. Kari has always been very important in Irene's heart. Not only because of the life-saving grace back then, but more because Kari has become an image, publicizing Irene's gratitude and keeping her promise to the outside world. I don't know if Kari is clear about this, but in front of Irene, he is indeed somewhat pampered and arrogant. Once, Irene took me to visit Kari on the set. That afternoon, he had a scene of being chased by wild dogs. He told Irene that he sprained his leg while filming the day before. Filming the chase scene again would probably be a bit painful. Kari pretended to be distressed. Oh, it's all because I was trying to be brave and thought I could hold on? Looking for a stunt double at this time. I'm afraid it's hard to find a suitable one. But brother Mateo, your height and build are almost the same as mine. From the back, it's hard to tell the difference. He smiled at me. Brother Mateo, do you want to try filming? Just for fun. It's very interesting. Irene also turned to look at me. The meaning was very clear. But I felt a chill all over. She clearly knew that what I was most afraid of in my life was dogs. The scene of being bitten by a dog, when I was young, was vivid in my mind. The cute and gentle puppy in other people's eyes was no less than a prehistoric beast to me. There's still time. Why don't we go to a nearby town to find a suitable one? I tried to propose another solution. Find one casually? How can that work? If an untrustworthy person goes out and spreads everywhere that they have been my stunt double, the media will smear me again. Brother Matteo. Come on. I believe in you. Kari had already found a reason. Today. I must have this stunt double. Matteo. Come on. In the end, it was Irene who made the final decision. I asked the director. These dogs have all been trained by the crew. There will be no danger. Before the word no of refusal could be said, a current rushed up to my heart. The intense pain made me dazed for a moment. The merciless voice of the system rang in my mind. Host. Going against the will of the heroine is not conducive to the strategy task. I must give you some punishment. I'll come. I heard my own dejected voice. The time have passed quickly. The destination arrived in an instant. It was on an abandoned pier by the sea. I called the police on the way. At this time, the police should also be on their way. The wind by the sea was very strong. Kari's hands were tied behind his back. His hair was messy. Asher was holding a dagger and pressing it against his neck. It has to be said that Kari is worthy of being a star. Even in this scene. It doesn't damage his beauty and charm. And on the ground next to him, Kari's agent, Liu Li, was also tied up. There were probably wounds from struggling on her hands and feet. She looked in a mess. Seeing us, Asher became excited. His trembling hand accidentally drew a bloodline on Kari's neck. Irene. Today I must let you taste the pain. Isn't this the person you like? I will let him be buried with me now. He dragged Kari and was about to jump into the sea. Stop. Irene shouted loudly. Asher. What do you want? We can discuss it. I want nothing. Irene. You evil star who killed your parents. You are just an orphan and a bitch. How dare you compare with me? If you didn't put a spell on the old man, would he leave the Zoo family to you? You made me lose everything. I will make you suffer with me. Then kill Matteo. She is Irene's boyfriend. Liu Li suddenly shouted. The look in her eyes when she looked at me was full of malice. This agent of Kari. In these years, she has also gained a lot of benefits by sticking to Irene. She wanted to get more money from Irene under Kari's name but was intentionally or unintentionally destroyed by me. Therefore, she has always held a grudge against me. Irene's frown for a moment was captured by Asher. He smiled strangely. I really didn't expect that, Irene. You really have a heart for the dog who has been with you for many years. Asher's expression became more and more crazy. Then you choose. Irene. Either I kill this sissy Kari, or you let the sycophant Matteo replace him. Choosing one from two. Isn't it much more fun? Grayson, who had just arrived, had an ugly expression. What are you thinking? Matteo is my sister's boyfriend. How can we let him change? Asher didn't give Irene much time and started counting down. 3, 2. Kari was so frightened and that he was about to cry. He looked directly at Irene. Irene. You said that you will always be good to me. I saved Grayson's life. No need for Matteo. Seeing Irene's hesitation on her face, Grayson straightened his neck. My life was saved by Ruilin. Just consider it as repaying him. I'll change for him. Shut up. Irene shouted loudly to stop him. She looked at Kari and then at Grayson. She made up her mind. Exchange. Let Matteo go and exchange. Sister. Grayson looked at Irene in disbelief. Oh, it seems that our chairman Zoo has made a decision. Asher spoke again and urged. At the same time, the dagger in his hand became heavier. Grayson stood in front of me and turned to say to me, "This is our family matter. You leave here first." I looked at all this. It was so absurd that it made people laugh. System. How much is the favorability? 85. Okay. I'll change. In the eyes of everyone. I walked out from behind Grayson. Asher spoke again. Really? Chairman Zhu. Come and bring your boyfriend over to exchange in person. I don't want to see him run away halfway. Irene looked directly at me. The words she uttered were calm without a trace of emotion. Ma Tayo. I can't let others think that our siblings of the Zhu family are ungrateful people. You are good at skills. Moreover, the police will be here soon. As long as we delay a little longer. I couldn't hear her words anymore. I just silently confirmed with the system in my mind. System. If I get hurt for the heroin, you will protect me. Right? You said that no matter whether it fails or succeeds. As long as the task is over, I can return to my world. Right? Yes. Host. Even if it's a fatal injury. There will be no after effects. I blinked. Okay. Seeing that I was getting closer and closer to the opposite side. I heard the sound of police sirens coming from far and near. When Asher was exchanging hostages, he suddenly gave Kari a hard push. Then he stabbed at Irene. Die. Irene. Sister. Be careful. Grayson shouted. But I rushed towards Asher, and blocked this knife for Irene. The dagger pierced into my body. Blood gushed out. The impact made me and Asher fall outside the railing. At the last glance, I saw Irene running staggeringly, and trying to hold me. But she was tightly hugged by Kari, who came running from behind. I didn't reach out my hand to her. I am finally free. Host. Do you really want to leave the task? You have paid so much for Irene. Don't you think it's a pity? But the task has already failed. I shrugged. When a person dies, it's like a lamp going out. The favorability is not full. What can I do? This is just a strategy task. When it's over, I will leave this performance and return to normal life. Just a performance? Host. You can deceive yourself, but you can't deceive me. You have always been sincere to Irene. From the moment you were bound. I have been injured countless times in this world. I have been disappointed, and in pain. I had countless opportunities to end this task by dying. But I never gave up because I really like Irene. I even sincerely prepared to accompany Irene forever. When I was very young, my parents died in an accident. I changed from the baby of the family to an orphan living in my uncle's house. Boys should be raised roughly to be healthy. My uncle and aunt said this to outsiders. So, I grew up like a dog-tail grass. It is such a dull me who will like Irene, who is shining brightly in the discussions of classmates. This love that was originally only dared to be deeply hidden in my heart was captured by the system, could only be bravely declared through the pretext of the task. Hurry up. Or the heroine will be bullied. Give me the location. I'll go immediately. This is the first task announced by the system. I hurried and finally arrived at the entrance of the alley where the plot unfolds. God knows. When our eyes met, my heartbeat was as loud as a huge bell. We were never a good match. Irene's heart is calm and prudent. Love only takes up a very small part in her heart. More importantly, the Zhu family and Grayson, and even she herself far ranked lower. I used to think I wouldn't mind. But being the one who is not chosen again and again still makes me disheartened. I have no nostalgia for these pasts. A long time ago, I knew that this strategy task was just warming a piece of ice that could never melt. I had long wanted to break free. But unfortunately the task couldn't be easily unbound. I could only conscientiously stay by Irene's side. But my original intention has long changed from strategizing her to protecting myself from being punished by the system. Then the system asks one last time. Is the host sure to leave the task? I am sure. The system understands. The task has been unbound. I wish the host safety and freedom in the days to come. Goodbye. Goodbye. The system has tracked me for 10 years but also accompanied me. An orphan. For a full 10 years. For me. It is an enemy but also a friend. Just as contradictory as the blessing for me at this moment. It punishes me mercilessly when I violate the rules but gives me the greatest protection within the scope where the rules don't reach. There will be no Mateo. Just like at this moment. The system has changed my identity in a city thousands of miles away. From now on, there will be no Mateo in this world. My years of savings and task rewards have made me wealthy. The system will erase the traces of the injuries I endured for Irene. Everything will be a new beginning. From now on, I am Orlando. Maybe I will become an art teacher, painter, or artist later. But I will never be Mateo again. Mateo! In the 4th year of becoming Orlando, I became a popular new generation impressionist painter with a painting titled Prayer of a Young Girl. When I returned to my country to open a gallery this time, I expected to meet old acquaintances. Unexpectedly, it came so quickly. Grayson was short of breath and tried hard to hide his excitement. You're still alive. Do you know how my sister has been these years? Why didn't you come back to find us? What should come will always come. I pretended not to know him. Who are you? Sir? Do you know me? I am Grayson. Have you lost your memory? He looked me up and down twice and suddenly reached out and grabbed my collar. I can't be mistaken. Look at your shoulder. There is still the scar from when you blocked the knife for me back then. His words stopped abruptly because there was not a single trace of injury on my shoulder. You. Miss Sue's way of flirting is really special. I slowly pulled up my collar. However, I'm not very interested in the same sex. Grayson in front of me was choked for a moment and calmed down. Probably I. Can we get to know each other? My name is Orlando. Orlando. Orlando is really a good name. Grayson became a frequent visitor to my gallery. Every time he came, he always looked at me with an inquisitive look. I knew he hadn't let go of his suspicion about my identity. Until one day, Irene also came to my studio. Irene has changed a bit in recent years. She is more capable and stable. Just like at this moment. The gallery is closed and the employees have left. But she is standing here and says she wants to listen to me introduce the paintings. I silently recited in my heart that the past is over. I only treat her as an ordinary customer now, and just serve her well. I sniffed and smelled a pungent burnt smell. What's that smell? As soon as the words fell, the fire alarm inside and outside the gallery blared. It's a fire alarm. Irene stood up straight. There's a fire. Let's go quickly. However, there was a person standing at the end of the gallery. Slim and dressed in white. Like a ghost. When the ghost saw Irene, he grinned. Irene. You made me lose everything. Today is your doomsday. When he turned to see me, he seemed startled. Why is it you? You're still alive? At this moment, I recognized that this unrecognizable and emaciated person was actually Kari. What has happened to him all these years? After I fell into the sea, I avoided contact with information about Zuiru for a while. Only in the past 2 years did I suddenly realize that Kari, who was once very popular, has disappeared without a trace. There were many discussions on the internet. The one considered the most credible is that the head of the Zhu family is tired of Kari. Kari pestered endlessly and instead aroused Irene's disgust. Therefore, he was banned. I didn't quite believe these rumors. After all, I had witnessed Irene's kindness to Kari with my own eyes. How could I believe that Irene banned him? Kari, whose face was terrifying, shook his head and his expression was resolute. Whether you are a human or a ghost, today is just right. Let's catch them all in one go. You are so heartless. After so many years of friendship, you didn't hesitate at all, and used the power of the Zhu family to ban me. Kari's eyes were full of hatred. There is no friendship. You are the child of a human trafficker. You deceived me and Grayson for so many years. Were you really going to ask for help with Grayson's jade pendant back then? When the police found you, you were probably on your way to the pawn shop, right? Irene's tone was cold. It turns out that my falling into the sea bat then actually made Irene be more careful. For the first time in many years, She explored the underlying reason for Kari's appearance in that village. Yes. I have never been a good person. I have a cheap life and have to fight for everything myself. Unlike you and Grayson, who are born young masters and ladies. So, do you know why I was hijacked by Asher 4 years ago? That was originally a cooperation. However, he also hates you to death. Not only did he not betray me but also left his remaining people to me just to have a chance to retaliate against you again. We can't get out through the main door. I kicked hard, but the door didn't move at all. It seems that Kari came prepared. Go through the window. Irene made a quick decision. Over there. The two of us were dodging burning objects in the gallery and running wildly. The surrounding picture frames and exhibits were either collapsing or falling in the fire. It was a mess. And the only way out was the high ventilation window on the wall. Protecting Irene has probably become my habit. I subconsciously squatted down. Quick. Step on my shoulder and climb out. But she didn't move. You have protected me many times. This time, you don't have to care about me. Just go by yourself. During the verbal tug of war. In the next moment, it fell heavily towards our side. I pretended not to understand. What do you mean? How could I leave a girl like you here? Be careful. Irene suddenly pushed me away but was knocked down by the shelf herself. Are you okay? I picked her up. In my arms. She said weakly, actually. At first glance, I recognized you. The tooth mark on your heel. Only then did I suddenly understand. I like dogs very much. But I have never had good luck with dogs, since I was a child. The dog at my uncle's house doesn't like me very much. As long as I appear in front of it, it has to chase and bite me. Look at my heel. The tooth mark left by it has left a scar. This was my reply when Irene asked me if I wanted to keep a cat or a dog when we just fell in love. After saying this, Irene fell into a coma. I didn't dare to hesitate any longer and tried to find a new exit. Fortunately, at this time, the glass was broken and a familiar voice rang out. Sister. Brother Matayo. This way. The fire was quickly extinguished. When Kari was found, he had already lost his vital signs. Although Irene was injured. Fortunately, the rescue was timely, and she was finally fine. No one knows that I used the last gift package left by the system for me in exchange for Irene being unscathed. I saved her, and she saved me this time. Finally, we can be even and not owe each other. Grayson originally invited me to visit Irene in the hospital, but I refused. I just sent a fruit basket to express basic care and courtesy. On the day I left this city again, Grayson came to the airport to see me off. Matayo. What did you call me? Brother Orlando. Grayson reacted and scratched his head. I'm really glad to see you. I wish you peace and happiness in the future. I looked at him and smiled. Thank you. Goodbye. This is really goodbye. The mountains are high and the roads are far. If there is fate, we will meet again.